All right, awesome. We are back. Tonight I made a strawberry lemonade mimosa. So if you are here, this is part three of reading aloud articles that were written about Master. Why, if you're still confused about why this film for me specifically in my life is so foundational right now, it is because it is one of the only films that is unpacking what it is like to be black and female in academia. And this film was released in 2022, so it's a current film. Okay, so the problems and themes that are being unpacked are like in real time virtually. After watching it again, watching the film Master again on Amazon Prime because it is released now on Friday, there were two other additional themes that I pulled out, and I want to I'm not going to unpack these in depth right now, but I did want to mention them. The first one, and I think I mentioned this in another read along because someone else pulled it out. There are in the film no black males. So on this entire campus, while all of this is happening, there are no black males. So while Jessica, the freshman student, is going through all of this shit where she's being terrorized, there's no, like, she does have a photograph, it looks like, that she puts up, okay, so when you get into a shared dorm, they typically put you send in a picture of yourself and they put it on the door of the dorm. Now the picture that's on the door of her dorm is herself and what could be her brother, but like at no point do you see her like reaching out or talking to this brother about all the shit that's happened. Even when, she's in the hospital, no one is there visiting her. She's there alone. It is her professors that do come and visit her. They briefly touch about like how her mom called and is concerned about her, but no one is physically there. She's there alone. So in this sort of system or society where they're supposed to be male protectors, all of our black female characters are out on a ledge alone, and they do seem to all have family. And Jessica also makes it clear she comes from an upper middle class family, so like she does have a support system, but while she's going through really personal and traumatic shit, she's alone. I want to point that out because that's also a theme that is real in my life and I know is real in the lives of some of my colleagues, simply because the sort of, what's a way to say it, like monumentous strength and accomplishment that, and like the sort of excellence that you have to demonstrate in order to get into these spaces in the first place, you have to be so good, right? So that means your talent is extraordinary. So I do understand when some people are mentioning the talented 10th and like, how much better you have to be than other people. Like, I get it. It's simply that I really feel that more people are not succeeding because they don't have like the infrastructure and resources to promote their success. If you have been in any sort of academic space or any sort of middle class existence, you are completely familiar with white mediocrity. Like all around you, these are not exceptional white people in any form or fashion, or even the Asian people who are around you. They are not like magically special. They simply had really great public schools, great tutors, and sort of like accountability chains that promoted and ensured their success. And for most black people in America and most black students, they don't have that. They are literally single nodes in this system that is really designed for them to fail. The second theme that I want to bring up is this idea of other people of color, and specifically like Asian and Latino people, because this is what I'm trying to point out in a lot of the ways that I speak and the things that I've said, because I can only speak from my lived experiences. In like pretty powerful rooms, like I basically never see any Indian people at all. I don't really see any black males at all. I also don't see barely any Latino people. What I will always find another black woman though. There will always be another black woman. And I feel like the people that I know who have had experiences in Ivy League schools, that same sort of sentiment is present. Now, I do think that statistics are changing a bit, where there are more Asian students at Ivy League schools and occupying space. I see that, but they are not the majority. They are not the majority, I don't think. But this, I don't know, because like it's 2022. I'm not looking at the stats, but from what I know and people who I know, like I'm also a University of California student. And so there's like a whole bunch of campuses within the University of California. Now, with the University of California, these are public institutions, but they're really, really well-funded public institutions. So, for instance, the University of California had like a Cal Give Back Day that was like maybe a week ago, and they raised $21 million in 24 hours, right? So that's the type of school that we're talking about. That's going to go toward like research and, you know, just really building whatever student support mechanisms are necessary for the students there. And that's really positive. That's really good. That's why the University of California systems are really good. But let's be clear, the University of California schools are not Ivy League schools. They're different. And I really believe that, at least from what I've seen of who is getting into these Ivy League schools and why they are getting in, at this point, they are really looking for exceptionalism, and it's not just grades. In the University of California system, if you are a student at any school in California, any high school in California, and you get over a 3.0, you're automatically ensured a spot in the University of California system. So you like all you have to do is earn B's for all 4 years and you automatically get into a UC. I'm not saying you're going to get into Berkeley or UCLA because those are more competitive than the others, but you're automatically guaranteed a spot at one. So automatically you've gotten a ticket into the middle class just by virtually showing up, because it's pretty simple to get B's for all 4 years of school. If you just show up and turn in your assignments, your teachers will give you enough feedback that you will earn a B average. Okay. So, and then there's also things about price, right? The University of California is a public school, so it's designed to be affordable. So if you're making a middle class income, if your family has saved about roughly $100,000 over like the course of your life, you know, like by the time you're 18, you can save $100,000 in 18 years. Your family can afford to pay for the school, especially if you have a 2-parent income household. Okay. Those are themes that I wanted to pull out, but now we're going to read this article. It is called Metaphysical Horror Becomes All Too Real and the Audacious Master. Now, this article was shared by the director and writer Mariama Diallo on her Instagram today. Here, I can show that. Well, maybe I'll actually edit this and then I'll put the photo of her Instagram handle. So yeah, let's just read it. Mariama Diallo's first feature uses the horror genre devices to reveal the ambient racism pervading American life, by Richard Brody, written March 14th, 2022. So this is a photograph from Amazon Studios / Alamy. Master, starring Zoe Renee, isn't a horror film, but a film of horrors that results from the suppression of history and the creation of myths that distort it. Genre is mainly a tool of marketing, but there are exceptions. Mariama Diallo's first feature, Master, which opens Friday in theaters and on Amazon Prime, has been widely described as a horror film, but what matters most is the kind of horror it portrays. It's set at the fictional Ancaster College, a highly selective school near Salem, Massachusetts. The film has supernatural elements, but it's very subject, and the core of its power, is the display of real world horrors and the recognition that they're often called supernatural because doing so is easier than facing reality. It's so in movies as in life. Much of the fantasy that dominates the current cinema is a form of concealment, a willful failure to look the world in the face. There's a new vanguard of horror films by black directors who've made sharply critical use of the genre. Foremost, Jordan Peele, who in Get Out and Us leans into its artifices for their symbolic power. In Master, however, Diallo, who also wrote the script, deploys horror tropes to reveal hidden realities while also exposing the commonplace abuses of fantasy as useful self-deceptions and craven lies in life and art alike. The drama is centered on three of the very few black women at the college: Gail Bishop, Regina Hall, a professor who is newly promoted to the dean-like position of master; Jasmine Moore, played by Zoe Renee, a first-year student whose move to campus is intercut with Gail's; and Liv Beckman, Amber Gray, a junior faculty member who is up for tenure. The action, which takes place in the course of a single academic year, begins with Gail arriving to the campus house reserved for the master. It's a residential job that involves close interaction with students, while Jasmine receives her room assignment from student volunteers. It turns out that her room is said to be haunted by the spirit of a local woman who centuries ago was hanged as a witch and who now, each year, takes a freshman to hell. But the hell that Jasmine soon goes through has a much more proximate cause. Her roommate, Amelia, played by Talia Ryder, who's witch, rich, stuck up, and condescending. Sorry, who's white. I don't know why I said witch. Who's white, rich, stuck up, and condescending. From the start, Jasmine endures textbook microaggressions from Amelia and other white classmates, such as when there's a spill on the floor and Amelia orders Jasmine to clean it, and then at a party, a crowd of white students sing loudly with a hip-hop song that uses the N-word. Returning to her dorm room, Jasmine finds her bed occupied by Amelia's visiting friends. White classmates call Jasmine the names of such black celebrities as the Williams sisters and Nicki Minaj. She also gets hassled by staff, including a white librarian who over-inspects her bag. The atmosphere on campus is heavy with racist static, and Gail discovers a ceramic mammy doll in the master's house and also an archival photo of an August white family with a black maid in the background. Jasmine takes note of the school's cafeteria staff and their obsequious manner toward white students. Flickering lights in a bathroom are part of a parcel of an act of race-based harassment involving Jasmine's hair. She came to campus with a natural hairdo, but then straightened her hair, seemingly to fit in with Amelia's social set, but to no avail. The external ambience affects Jasmine's state of mind. Diallo's bold version of realism includes nightmares, hallucinations, and dire imaginings as primary phenomena and authentic events, and they drive Jasmine to dig into the microfilm at the library to research the history of her dorm room and its ostensible haunting. She discovers something altogether different from the well-worn legend. In 1965, the first black student at Ancaster, a woman named Louisa Weeks, died there by hanging. Diallo quickly shows that what haunting means when Jasmine exits the library late at night and seen from on high, she looks up at those trees, those branches. The agonizing history of lynchings in America and its newly intense and immediate place in the forefront of Jasmine's thoughts and fears are concentrated in a gesture and in an image. Yeah. Among her new peers in the school's administration, Gail gets similar treatment and becomes unnerved by it. One colleague likens her to Barack Obama and tells her that she adds flavor to a party. Gail digs up more racist archival material in the house, along with an infestation of maggots that manifests like a sign of secreted death. Ancaster's race-centered tension does more than jangle the nerves of black faculty and students. It sets them against one another. Jasmine endures harshly judgmental attention by her classwork by Liv, her English professor, who also makes inappropriate assumptions about Jasmine's background. Far from being poor and educationally disadvantaged, she's a valedictorian of a suburb. Even the overly friendly black cafeteria server seems to look daggers at Jasmine. Yeah. In Liv's tenure review, white faculty put the onus of judgment on Gail as she bears special reasonability for vetting another black candidate. Soon, the aggressions that Jasmine is forced to tolerate become shockingly macro, racist, and menacing. The story of Louisa Weeks becomes her ever-mounting obsession. The hostility and her increasing isolation send her into a state of mental torment and confusion. The seemingly metaphysical horrors that she faces at Ancaster become appallingly real, and Gail and Liv, far from being able to help, are held back by institutional rules and norms, by deep-rooted expectations and internalized inhibitions. That's a good way to put it, because if you're describing it from that point of view, they wanted to help but could not. I actually don't see it that way. I feel like they pitied her situation and felt sorry that she was struggling, but I don't think either of them had ambitions to step in and try to do anything about it. For all its genre tropes, Master is a naturalistic view of American social life, a depiction of omnipresent racism and the practical devastation of black lives that result from it. It's a story of the real-world results of mainstream white America's collective blind eye to racism, and in particular, the absurd and self-satisfied frivolity of addressing and deploring gross manifestations of racist microaggressions without acknowledging and reforming the racism, and the ignorance of it that's built into American institutions and drummed into American minds. Master is an intensely effective, terrifyingly affecting drama that's also a virtual vision of the power and purpose of the modern white right-wing war on truth. This distortion of American history that state governments are currently imposing on schools comes off as inseparable from the perpetuation and reinforcement of a system of white supremacy, not only by hiding the realities of racism, but also by tangling victims in self-doubt and bewilderment. With its realistic psychological view and stark political diagnosis of ostensible spiritual mysteries, Master isn't a horror film, but a film of horrors that happens as a direct result of the suppression of history and the creation of myths that conceal and distort it. Diallo films with only tangles and tweaks of satirical derision. The mood is rather one of alarm. She uses perspective from overhead, from below, from within, from oppressively close to reveal inconvenient and painful truths, not least by breaking with familiar habits and cinematic vision. The film's audacious tone and visual jolts are matched by dramatic twists that, in their strange disruptions of the narrative, mark irreparable damage to the world at large. Diallo's use of extended takes has the feeling of eyes being held open to bear witness to enduring and silenced outrage. So that is the article that the director Mariama chose to share, written about her work. I do feel like that is the best interpretation of the film that I've read thus far. I will link it in the bottom of this description box so you can unpack it more for yourself. I literally just read it aloud, so the words that I've read are coming directly from the screen. And I just realized that some people, for whatever reason, are unable to read articles like this aloud. And because I'm in a position where I can do that, I want to do that. So people who want and need to see this in video and audio and hear someone else read aloud to them, I'm here to do that for you. So you have this resource now.